Every night, millions of people trust a stranger to take them home. But sometimes, that ride is the last safe place they'll ever see. Tonight, I'm sharing 5 terrifying true Uber horror stories. Real passengers, real drivers, real nightmares you won't believe. Lock your doors, check your back seat, and listen closely. You never know who or what might be riding with you. It was supposed to be a quick drop-off, but when the driver looked in his mirror, the back seat was empty and freezing cold. It was just another late Friday night for Daniel, an Uber driver who had made peace with the idea of driving drunks and night owls around the city for extra cash. His shift usually ended at 3 a.m., but the surge pricing was good, so he stayed out later than usual. At around 2:47 a.m., he got a ping. Pick up, 12th Street and Maple, drop off, Old Willow Road. Easy. He tapped accept and drove through the misty side streets to the pin. There was a man standing under a broken streetlight, tall, hood up, motionless. Daniel slowed down, unlocked the doors, and the man got in without saying a word. He smelled faintly of wet leaves and something else. Daniel glanced at the mirror. The man's head was down. No greeting. Old Willow Road, right? Daniel asked. No answer. Daniel shrugged. Some passengers were like that. He turned up the radio slightly to cut the silence, but the man shifted in the seat, so Daniel turned it back down. The rest of the ride was quiet, the streets empty and dark, the only sound the steady thrum of the engine. As they approached Old Willow Road, Daniel felt uneasy. The houses here were mostly abandoned, old rotting shells from the 50s when this place was a nice neighborhood. He found the pinned address, a boarded-up house with a rusted mailbox leaning sideways. He pulled over, turned around. "All right, sir, we're here." Silence. Daniel cleared his throat. "Hey, we're here." No movement. He glanced at the mirror. The back seat was pitch black, but he could just make out the shape of the man's hood. "Sir?" No answer. Daniel's heart began to pound. He reached back slowly, flipping on the dome light. The back seat was empty. Daniel's mouth went dry. He hadn't stopped anywhere. There were no footsteps, no door chime, nothing. The passenger was just gone. He checked his phone. The trip still showed as active. Then the air turned cold, his breath visible inside the car. From the cracked screen of his rearview mirror, he saw a faint outline. The hooded figure sitting right behind him, staring through him with empty, hollow eyes. Daniel's scream echoed into the foggy street. But when the police found his car an hour later, engine still running, he was gone. The only thing left behind was the faint smell of wet leaves and a single word scratched into the back seat leather. Home. She picked up the wrong man, and that man refused to leave the car until they were alone in the woods. Maya had been driving for Uber for 3 years, part-time money to pay off student loans. She knew her city like the back of her hand, knew which neighborhoods to avoid after midnight, and knew exactly when to lock the doors before a passenger even reached the handle. But that night she made a mistake. It was just after 1:30 a.m. She was about to end her shift when a request popped up. Pick up Lark Avenue, drop off, Pine Hollow Nature Reserve. She frowned. The nature reserve was at least 20 minutes outside the city, deep into a stretch of woods with no lights, no houses. But the payout was good, double surge. She sighed and tapped accept. When she pulled up to Lark Avenue, she saw a man standing alone under a flickering street lamp. Tall, thin, wearing a dusty brown coat too big for him, hands buried deep in the pockets. She rolled down her window halfway. "Uber for James?" The man just nodded. He didn't say a word as he got in the back seat. Maya felt a chill when he closed the door. The air smelled stale, like old wood and damp cloth. "Pine Hollow, right?" she asked. He nodded again, eyes forward. She pulled away, forcing herself to shrug it off. She'd had plenty of silent rides before. Some people just didn't want to talk. But as they crossed out of the city limits, the silence thickened. The trees swallowed the road, branches clawing at her headlights. The only sound was the dull creak of the back seat leather every time the man shifted. Halfway there, her phone buzzed. A text popped up on the dash. "Your next pickup, James, Lark Avenue." Maya's heart stopped. She glanced at the mirror. The man behind her was staring at her through the glass, but his eyes were empty, unblinking. She tapped the brakes, the car slowed. She forced a smile through the rearview mirror. "Hey, sorry. What's your name again?" Silence. He tilted his head slightly, like he didn't understand the question. Her pulse pounded. She tapped the dash screen. The original request still said James, pick up at Lark Avenue. But the new ping was also James. Same spot, same profile photo. She cleared her throat. "Listen, I think I got the wrong..." The man leaned forward suddenly, cold breath on her neck. "Keep driving." His voice was cracked, like dry leaves crunching underfoot. She felt her hands go numb as she obeyed. The trees thickened. No houses, no lights, no turn-offs. Just dark forest swallowing the single-lane road. When she finally reached the Pine Hollow entrance, an old gravel lot with a chained gate, she stopped. Her hands shook on the wheel. "Okay, we're here," she whispered. The man didn't move. "Sir, we're here," she tried again. Slowly, he leaned even closer. She could smell that stale, rotting cloth. He whispered, voice scraping her eardrums raw. "This isn't where I get out." He reached forward, his cold fingers brushing her shoulder. Then a light, bright, blinding. Another car pulled into the lot behind them. A Ranger truck. Headlights caught the figure in her back seat. But in that instant, he was gone. Her back seat was empty. The door hadn't opened. No footsteps, just silence. The Ranger knocked on her window. Maya rolled it down, fighting the nausea swirling in her stomach. "You okay, miss?" "Park's closed." "You can't be out here." She turned around again. Empty. Maya quit driving that night. She never accepted another late-night ride. She never found out who or what she picked up on Lark Avenue. But sometimes, when she parks her car alone at night, she swears she still feels a cold hand brush her shoulder, reminding her she brought him to the woods, but never brought him back. She ordered an Uber to get home safe, but the man who pulled up wasn't who he claimed to be. Claire was always careful. She double-checked the license plate. She matched the driver's face to the app. She shared her trip link with her roommate every single time. She'd read too many horror stories about women who didn't make it home. She wasn't going to be one of them. It was Friday, close to midnight. She'd stayed too late at her friend's birthday party. Just one last drink, just one last laugh. When she stepped outside, the street was quiet except for the soft hum of traffic 3 blocks away. She ordered her Uber, gray Toyota Corolla. Driver, Mark. ETA, 4 minutes. While she waited, she leaned against a lamppost, checking her phone for any text from her roommate. Nothing yet. A car pulled up, gray Corolla, perfect. The passenger window rolled down. "You Claire?" the driver asked. He was wearing a baseball cap pulled low, a grin half hidden by the shadow. Claire glanced at the license plate. She was tired, tipsy, her eyes blurry in the glow of the streetlight. It matched. Or at least, she thought it did. "Yeah, hi," she said, opening the back door. She slid in, pulling the door shut behind her. The car smelled faintly of pine air freshener and something else, something metallic. She buckled her seatbelt, glanced at her phone. The app still showed Mark en route. She frowned. Maybe the app was lagging. "Hey, just making sure. You're Mark, right?" she asked. The man laughed, but it was flat, humorless. "Sure, Mark. Yeah." His voice didn't match the cheery face in the profile picture. The Mark was clean-shaven, young, warm. This man's voice was deep, scratchy, like a bad cough. Claire's stomach tightened. She checked her phone again. The car still wasn't moving on the map. Still blocks away. "Could you start the trip in the app?" she asked, trying to keep her tone casual. The man's grin widened. He didn't answer, just pulled away from the curb. Slowly at first, then faster, once they passed the first intersection. "Hey, could you stop for a second? I think I got in the wrong car." No response. He kept driving. Claire's heart slammed against her ribs. She clicked the seatbelt open, hand on the door handle, but the child lock clicked on. She looked at the window, locked too. The man turned onto a side street, darker, narrower, lined with old garages and dumpsters. His grin showed crooked yellow teeth in the dim dashboard glow. "Where are you taking me?" she asked, voice trembling. He didn't answer, just that grin, just that silence. She glanced at her phone, no signal. She opened her messages to her roommate. "Help, not Uber, call police." She hit send, praying it would go through once they got back in range. The man turned again, into an alley so narrow the branches scraped the windows on both sides. Claire's pulse roared in her ears. She saw her chance. The car slowed to squeeze past a dumpster. She didn't think. She just slammed her shoulder into the door again and again until the latch snapped. The door swung open. She threw herself into the alley, hitting the ground hard, knees screaming in pain. Behind her, the car door swung shut. She scrambled to her feet, sprinting toward the main street, ignoring the pain, ignoring the voice shouting behind her. She didn't stop until she burst out of the alley and straight into the arms of a confused delivery driver. Gasping, sobbing, she managed to choke out a plea for help. The fake driver was gone when the police arrived. No trace, no license plate match. Mark, the real Uber driver, showed up 10 minutes later, confused, worried, with an empty car and a perfect 5-star record. Claire still takes Ubers, but now she checks twice. She never rides alone at night, and she always wonders how many other women got in that fake Uber and never found the door in time. He parked to nap between rides, but the passenger in the back seat never left. Carlos had been driving nights for 2 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and kept his days free for his kids. Most nights blurred together, tired college kids, drunk bar crawlers, the occasional awkward couple whispering in the back seat. But nothing ever really rattled him until that Tuesday night. It was dead. No requests for almost an hour. Around 3:45 a.m., Carlos pulled into a quiet gas station parking lot near the edge of town. He cracked the windows, reclined his seat, and set his phone alarm for 15 minutes. Just enough to keep him going until sunrise. He always made sure the doors were locked when he dozed. Always. But when the alarm buzzed, He woke with a start, throat dry, mind foggy. It took him a moment to realize something was off. His rear-view mirror was angled slightly toward the back seat, and in the faint glow from a distant street light, he saw a silhouette. Someone was sitting behind him, perfectly still. Just a shape, blending with the shadows. He felt the back of his neck prickle. He hadn't heard the door open. He hadn't felt the car shift. But there they were. He sat up slowly, throat tight. "Hey, sorry. I think you got in while I was sleeping. Where are you headed?" No answer. The figure didn't move. No rustle of clothes, no clearing of the throat, nothing. Carlos forced a chuckle. "Hey man, it's cool. Just let me know the address." Still nothing. He reached for his phone. No new ride request, no alert. He checked the door locks, all still locked. His fingers shook as he glanced in the mirror again. The figure was leaning forward now, just slightly, like they were watching him breathe. "Hey," Carlos snapped, trying to hide the quiver in his voice. "You good? You need a ride or not?" Silence. Then, the figure shifted, just a fraction closer. Carlos heard it, a slow, dragging breath, too close to his ear. He twisted around, flicking on the dome light, but the back seat was empty. The car smelled different now. Stale, like mildew, and something sweet rotting under the seat. He flipped the light off, and in the mirror, the silhouette returned, closer this time. A face he couldn't quite see, just the suggestion of wide, unblinking eyes, sunken deep in darkness. Carlos fumbled with the key, starting the engine so fast his hand slipped on the wheel. He slammed the car into drive and lurched out of the lot. Headlights catching nothing but empty asphalt and old trash swirling in the wind. He didn't stop until he was back in the city. Crowded streets, bright lights, people. He pulled into a 24-hour diner, heart-hammering like he'd run a marathon. He stepped out of the car, knees weak, forcing himself to look in the back seat again. Empty, perfectly clean, like no one had ever been there. But when he opened the back door, the seat was warm, like someone had been sitting there for hours, pressed close, watching him sleep. Carlos still drives nights, but he never naps in his car anymore. And sometimes, when he glances in the mirror on a dead road at 4 a.m., he swears he sees a shadow flicker behind him, waiting for him to close his eyes again. He picked her up at midnight, but the road seemed endless, and she kept whispering his name. Raj was a night owl, always had been. So driving Uber overnight made sense. Less traffic, bigger tips, fewer kids puking in his back seat. He knew every shortcut, every back road, every way to get from one side of the city to the other without seeing another car for miles. It was 12:03 a.m. when the ping came in. Pick up Willow Station. Drop off South Pines Road. Simple. South Pines was barely 15 minutes away. When he pulled up to Willow Station, an old bus stop half hidden by overgrown bushes, he saw her. A woman in a pale blue dress standing perfectly still under the flickering streetlight. Long black hair, no luggage, just a small purse clutched tight to her chest. She stepped up to the car before he could roll the window down. She leaned in and whispered, "Raj?" He blinked. He'd never had a passenger say his name like that. So soft, so familiar. "Yeah, that's me. Hop in." She slid into the back seat, settling directly behind him. He pulled away from the curb, merging onto the main road. "You're headed to South Pines?" he asked, glancing at her in the mirror. She didn't answer. She just looked at him, eyes wide, almost sad. Raj shrugged it off, focused on the road. Maybe she'd had a rough night. He had seen worse. But when he checked the GPS, he frowned. Estimated time, 52 minutes. That couldn't be right. It was 15 minutes tops. He glanced back. "Did you put the right address in?" She didn't answer, but now she was humming. A low, broken tune that made the hair on Raj's arm stand straight up. The GPS recalculated. 1 hour, 12 minutes. He looked around. Unfamiliar houses, unfamiliar street signs. He'd lived here 10 years, but he didn't recognize any of this. "Hey, I think we're going the wrong way," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The woman leaned forward, her face close enough that he could see her pale eyes in the rearview mirror. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "Keep driving, Raj." His hands tightened on the wheel. The road stretched ahead, dark, no streetlights, trees pressing in on either side like walls. He forced a laugh. "Okay, you got it, but maybe give me the right address. The app is." "Keep driving, Raj." He felt her cold breath on his ear. He turned to look back, but the seat behind him was empty. The car veered slightly. He snapped his eyes back to the road. The humming was louder now, echoing from the back seat, even though no one was there. He hit the brakes, heart pounding. The car skidded to a stop on an endless stretch of cracked pavement. No signs, no houses, no phone signal. His phone buzzed. New destination, Willow Station. He turned around again. The woman was back. Closer this time, face inches from his. She whispered, "Take me back, Raj." He slammed the car into gear, tires spinning on the old asphalt as he turned the car around. When he pulled back into Willow Station, the streetlight flickered. He turned around. The back seat was empty again. The door hadn't opened. There were no footsteps, no goodbyes. Raj quit driving that night. He sold his car 2 weeks later. But sometimes, when he passes Willow Station on foot, he sees her standing under that streetlight, pale blue dress, sad eyes, humming that broken tune, waiting for him to take her home, again and again and again. So the next time you tap that app and watch a stranger's car pull up to your curb, take a good look at the license plate, check the face, and when you slide into the back seat, make sure you're alone, because some rides never really end. Sleep tight.